Hi YouTube, welcome back to Wtf Rc Cars. So we've finished the 420X build and we've got the XR10 Pro V4, so the cheaper version of the XR10 Pro, and we need to set it up for our stock class and we need to check that the firmware is updated on it. So I'm going to use the Hobbywing Bluetooth over the air programmer, and I'm just going to take you through, show you how you connect it, how you update the firmware on it, and then how we check as settings to make sure it's set for the stock class. So let's bring you in for a close-up look and see how we go about setting this up and updating software. So first thing we're going to need to do is connect our over-the-air Bluetooth programmer, and for this you have got very faint markings on the actual plug, but basically on this ESC you want your gold tabs facing outwards. Now I have unplugged the fan on this one just so it's not as annoying for the video, but basically we just want to pop that down into it and then just sit the programmer anywhere at all on the RC. Don't chop your little antenna off. So we're going to need to power it up. Once we power it on, you'll see we've got a light showing. Now I'll try and get a screen recording on the actual mobile itself. So once we've got our programmer connected, we're then going to need to open the Hobbywing V2 app. First thing it'll show you is that it's found a new database for firmware and everything, so you want to click download on that. Once that's updated, it'll just say OK. Then we can go into settings. We want to make sure connection is set to Bluetooth, because we're using Bluetooth, not Wi-Fi. And then you can change the name and everything of your Bluetooth dongle once you're connected to it, and you can change the default password. But if we back out of that, so we want to connect, so we click the chain icon at the top. It'll search for us Bluetooth devices. You'll see the Hobbywing one listed. Then it should have connected and the icon goes like a locked link chain. So first off, we need to check as firmware. So we click on firmware, you see the light flashing, it'll read it, and this is a brand new one out of the box, so you can see this comes with 4.2.01 and the available version is 4.3.05. If you click into it, you can see a whole load of different ones listed, so you can usually roll back a few. But if we leave it selected on the latest, then you're going to want to click update. It does give you a warning, basically just in case anything sort of triggers it to sort of power the RC or the motor or anything. It is always worth either taking the wheels off or just putting it on a stand, or remove the props or anything like that if it's in a helicopter or something. And it tells you not to move away from it because obviously you're connecting over Bluetooth. So if we press OK, we then get the firmware update process, and this will go through. Now I will show you this in real time. Sorry, it takes a bit of a while to go through, but I've had a few people in the past where I've cut bits out and they've thought that theirs bricked because it took a lot longer than it did. But usually with these firmware updates, they either add new features or they will fix issues that they've found on the actual devices. You do have to make sure that the screen doesn't lock as well on your phone, because it can put it into sleep mode, and then it's definitely a possibility that you could brick your ESC, which you certainly don't want to do. Now I'm doing this on the 420X. We've still got a few things we need to set up on this. I did decide on this one to go with the Rush. I think these are the 28s, what I'm going to try out on this one. And I've dropped the spur gear down to a 104. I believe the stock one was 100 and 16, but I just need a round about a 40-tooth pinion, and I've gone for 64 DP. Not completely made up in mind what I'm doing with these batteries yet though. Might get some low profiles, or I might get it on scales and see what it's actually like with this. It would mean that I could literally take 4 batteries but get quite a bit of practice time in on it as well, if I do end up running these huge batteries. I do think the stock setup on this car as well looks like it could do a bit more toe out than what it's got. Very little play in that steering though, which I'm quite impressed with. And we do now have a pair of touring cars sort of coming along. This one's the Iris 1. All I've done on this so far is put a little 1mm shim down back of here to bring this shock forward, get it away from that pulley, because it does look like it had hit the front pulley or would catch on it. And as you can see, this one we've got the Rudog 17.5 turn motor, which looks very, very similar to the Surpass Rocket. I think the body shells that I'm going with on these are the twister ones. Still got to get them painted up. They are very close in actual sort of wheelbase and everything, these two cars. Which just makes sense, they're both at the same class. Must admit, this is the first one I've got where I've got to mount the body shell front back though. But we're now at 75%. Will be interesting to see how these two cars handle though. Both running 17.5 turn and both running Blinky mode stock class. I've got them set up so they can both run similar sized batteries as well. And they will both be running the same body shell, so will be interesting comparison. There's no extra parts on either car either at the minute, I don't think. Both running the FlySky radio gear. Not sure if I need to actually move the ESC down slightly on this though, just so I can get a fan on. Not sure if we need a fan for a 17.5 turn motor. Suppose it depends on track and gearing. And I do have one of these braided sensor cables left. Might have a look to see if it'll fit on there, because it would tidy it up a little. Right, so moving along with the ESC update, it does say it'll restart itself. So let's see if we can connect back up. So it has connected back up now. If we go back into firmware update, we should see that it's on the latest. So firmware update matches the latest available. Now we can go into parameters and it will read the ESC. So apparently the Bluetooth module is meant to be quicker, but what I've found is the newer model ESCs, the Bluetooth module seems to be quicker, although on these older style ones, the Wi-Fi one seems to be quicker. Certainly at reading the parameters. So we have a bunch of profiles. So it looks like this. We've got 0 timing and then 2 to 10. So we've got it set to forward and brake. Maximum reverse force doesn't matter. Voltage cut off auto, 3.3 volt per cell. So basically you can set that to whatever you like. But I tend to just leave it at auto. Settings we have got forward with brake. You've got forward, reverse and brake, or forward and reverse. Maximum reverse force 25, 50, 75 and 100. If we look at the ESC thermal cutoff, we can either go 105, 125 or disabled. Same with the motor, 105, 125 or disabled. As BEC we can set to 6 or 7.4 volt. Remote off, which I do like to run, you can basically just press the brake and hold it and it'll turn the RC off when you've finished racing. So options for that is enabled or disabled. Sensor mode, fully censored or censored sensorless hybrid. Throttle rate control. So we've got increments of 1, default set to 30, so I'll leave it at that. As throttle curve, you can go linear or customized, and then you can set an actual custom sort of throttle curve. I'm just going to leave mine on linear. Neutral range 4, 6 and 8%. Coasting, so we can set the percentage of coasting all the way up to 20%. Things like this I like to drive it first and see what it's like. So as PWM drive frequency we have 1, 2, 4, 12, 16, 24 and 32. Stock is 2. And it's a bit of a weird one with the PWM drive frequency because basically you get a more granular response the higher the number, but then the hotter it makes your ESC run, so it's a trade-off. Softening values, basically 1 degree increments from 0 to 30. And then the actual range, so 10, 20, 25, 30. Looks like we can go up in 5s all the way from 20. But you can set it at 0 if you like. So drag brake. So we got 1% increments on this all the way up to 100. Maximum brake force. So 0, 12.5, 25, 37.5, 50, 62.5, 75, 87.5 and 100. And then your brake rate control, 1 to 20 in increments of 1. Your brake curve, linear or again customized. Then your brake frequency, so 1, 2, 4, 8, 16 or 0.5. And again with that, it'll feel more granular, but it's going to make your ESC run hotter the higher you have it. So moving down, so brake control, we've got linear, traditional or hybrid. Boost timing, we can set all the way up to, I think it's 64. So you can have 0 but all the way up to 64 degrees. Then you've got the boost start RPM. So we can go from 500, looks like 500 RPM steps. And we can go all the way up to 35,000. I think stock is 6. And the end RPM. So basically, where's the lowest one? So it looks like you can go from 3,000 to 60. And they're in 500 RPM steps. Turbo timing, 1 degree steps all the way up to 64 degrees. And then on a 0 timing profile, we've got the rest of it sort of grayed out. So your turbo delay, your increase rate, your decrease rate. So once you've set everything you want, I believe you should just be able to press save. That should save it back to your ESC. And so that should be it. If we power it off, remove as programmer, power it on, let's turn on our transmitter, and we should be in Blinky mode. So we got the ESC flashing away, and it's just forward and as brake. And obviously we're not going to drive because I've moved the motor back because we need a bigger pinion. But that should be all set up, and basically that's how we get it in Blinky mode and update as firmware. So let's wrap this one up. So there you have it, the XR10 Pro V4 and the Bluetooth programmer with the V2 of the Hobbywing software. Must admit, I think this is the first one where I've seen just a 0 timing profile and then all the rest blank. On the rest of them, when I've been using it, they've been sort of 2-wheel drive buggy, 4-wheel drive buggy and stuff like that listed. Not sure if it's something they've changed just for this ESC or if that's to do with the new update on the software, because I know there were any issues with the actual Hobbywing programming software from Bluetooth. It just weren't seeing the Bluetooth device or the wireless device, because I did try and update my X system a bit back. I wanted to do a video on that, couldn't do it, but luckily they've updated it all. But yeah, you've got a whole load of sort of settings that you can save off to them profiles, and you can back them up to your phone, and if you know where they're stored on your phone, you can actually share them to people as well. But quick and easy guide on how to update your firmware. Make sure it's running the latest software and make sure your settings are correct. But thanks again for watching Wtf Rc Cars. If you like this kind of content, don't forget to like and subscribe, hit the notification bell, share to friends and family, and catch you guys again in the next one.